So the questions that devotees usually ask is, what is the proof that God does not exist? Is there any proof, substantial proof that, they think that, there was a big bang and that's how this creation began. There's so much of speculation. So what we'll be doing in this class is, beyond faith, beyond belief, we're going to prove scientifically that God does exist. For sure. Okay? So we're going to have 4 sections for this class. The first section will be, why do people believe in God? The acronym for that is DUST, D-U-S-T. The second section of the class will be, why do people not believe in God? 3 reasons for that. And then section 3 will be a clear-cut definition of God. And session 4 will be how to get perfect knowledge of God. Only 4 sections in this entire section. Why do people believe in God? D-U-S-T. I'll open up that acronym later. Why do people not believe in God? 3 reasons for that. Then a scientific definition, a scientific proof that God does exist will be after this, and then we're going to get a clear definition of God. Now many people think God is this, God is that, God is just some power, but what exactly, how do you define God? Yeah? So if some person says that, okay, this person is God now, he has to fit in this universal definition. Yeah? We'll come to that definition. And then how to get perfect knowledge of God. So the proof for existence is, we're going to negate this point. It's going to be C Lord. And clear-cut definition of God is spice. Yeah. When we come to it, you'll understand that.
This is already there in the folder.
Yeah. You know what happens when I keep clicking and we go ahead, sometimes you lose track of where we were when I keep giving examples and stories. That's why I usually write down the flow of the class, and it's easier to come back to and do recap. Even I don't get it. So why do people believe in God? Because of D-U-S-T. D stands for, what do you think? Now, generally people believe in God around you.
Yeah.
What do you think? Why do they believe in God?
Because one person is following so many
Herd mentality. Could be. No? It could be, what is that word called, more than herd mentality, it's traditions. Yeah, traditionally we have been brought up in a way that, we God-fearing hona chahiye. Yeah. So fear of the unknown. So D basically, give me a second. Basically people, एक तो सब लोग मंदिर में जाते क्यों है? For their desires to be fulfilled. So D stands for desires. For the desires to be fulfilled, they want to believe on someone superior. Could be a demigod. बस मुझे मेरा काम हो रहा है, I'm done. Right? So out of desires, people believe in God. Just like someone going for an interview, उस दिन याद आ जाएगा कि एक माथा टेक ले तो सब कुछ छुप जाएगा. If you just start everything, that's traditionally we are, before you're opening any office, before you're doing anything, you just want everything to be alright. I had an atheistic friend who just did not believe in God, but when he started up his own business, he had a puja done, in his office premises, and we were called for the puja, and we were wondering this person is actually doing something, Vedic, some ritualistic thing in his office space. It's quite weird. And we asked him about it. He said, I just want to be, in the safer side. Even if there is someone up by default, if there is someone up, he is also happy. So U stands for fear of the unknown. D stands for desires. U stands for fear of the unknown. What if there is someone up there? And S stands for society pressure. If someone is, very bold about not believing in God, then traditionally they are very, looked down upon. कोई उसको वो घर में भेटी नहीं देंगी थी कि what sort of people are there that don't believe in God. The traditional households, they like to be called as God-fearing people. That pressure is always there. So sometimes out of that people say that, yeah, okay, there is some God. Fine, koi to hai upar. And the last thing is T is traditions, as you said. Traditionally we've been brought up. But beyond a certain point, if we ask someone, prove to me God exists, then, sometimes we might just, for the heck of it, say that, okay, Baba, God is not there. Yeah? Or some people also say, very strongly believe that it's our faith. So, then the question could be that if there are faithless people who don't have faith, if God, the existence of God only is, to the level of faith, then that means if there are faithless people or people lose their faith, so God stops existing? Or is He independent of our faith, our belief, or our traditions, our pressures, whatever? Is He really there? How do I scientifically prove it? So the second point here comes to that if these are the things that why people believe in God out of pressures or out of desires or out of whatever, why there are people who don't believe in God? Yeah? There could be sort of people who've been through a lot of reversals in their life. Their faith is shattered, their belief is broken, their hopes are broken. So at that point of time they become very repulsive to the idea of thinking that if there was someone up there, why did not He help me? So basically the answer of this question will be answered in day 5.
Answer the comment.
D4 पर वो डब्बे में है
तो बहुत अच्छा
यहाँ पर थोड़ा सा
on phone.
And I just shall just keep it like this.
So there is no proof for God. So how can we believe that there is so much suffering, so much evil? So why do people suffer? Why do bad things happen to good people? Why do good things happen to bad people? This question will be answered on day 5 thoroughly, because before that we need to understand some concepts. A second reason why people do not believe in God is also that they cannot see God. Generally our education system has been in such a way that you have to see to believe. Right? So if we've not seen God, then how do we believe that God is there? So for that, it would be that have you seen air? How do you know that air exists? Because of some experience. We breathe air, we can feel. There is some parameters through which we can experience the existence of air, or for that matter ether, which is even more a settled element in the atmosphere. But due to radio waves, that's how our phones are working, through ether. That's how we understand. Using some parameters, we understand that, there is ether also in the atmosphere. Like we can't really see carbon dioxide, we can't really see nitrogen. But there are some researches done through which there is a conclusion, through some experience, there's some conclusion that these elements do exist in the atmosphere, although we cannot see them. So this paradigm that seeing is believing is a very foolish paradigm to measure someone like God. So the 2 reasons are done. The third reason is proof. Again, everyone asks for proof. देखा नहीं है, बात नहीं करते. So many things. Some tangible proof that we can confirmingly say that no, this is the proof that God exists. So for that reason, we have something called Sea Lord. What is the Sea Lord? We'll be breaking it up. So quick recap. Why do people believe in God? Due to desires. Fear of the unknown is U. Society pressure is S. T stands for traditions. Traditional beliefs. And then why do people not believe in God? There's no proof of His existence. Can you show me God? Seeing is believing. J3, the point 3 is how can God exist and allow so much suffering and sin and evil? So, proof of existence, that we define what God is. We show how to see God and how to acquire knowledge. Just a second. When C Lord, C stands for Creator. This is C Lord. Where C stands for Creator, L stands for Lawmaker, OR stands for Order and Design, D stands for Demands and Earnings. So this way we understand that these are the four proofs. Now I'll be elaborating it, then you'll understand how it is a proof that God exists. Yeah, that is, we just have to remember this. Yeah, Lord, C Lord. Now, big GK class. Can we be the inventors? Who invented the telephone? Do you remember? You have kids? आज उनको पढ़ाते पढ़ाते not yet. Yeah, Graham Bell. Yeah. James Watt for the engine. Telescope. Do you remember? I'm sure you know. You just would Anira. Galileo. Yeah. The bulb is Thomas Edison. So all these things can they come automatically?
Can become automatically?
Yeah, automatically, like suddenly they were created.
Not suddenly.
They were not created suddenly. Someone created them, exactly. They did not come automatically. Someone had to put that effort, that research, after so much of hard work, did they come up something so brilliant. So, the first proof for God's existence is that there is a creation. It implies a creator. Imagine for things as mechanical as this projector, as this AC, as these all these things require a creator. What to speak about? Hey, go. You come to CC class? CC? Check it is. Check. Setting on time, rising on time. All the seasons are coming and going cyclically. It's like a whole machine running. In school we learned this water cycle. Do you remember? It was my favorite. One of the projects that we had done. It's so amazing. It's working without any, you might imagine that, sometimes a machine doesn't constantly need someone. But at least at the initial page, or someone who has on and off some connection with the machine, at least to switch it on and to maintain it. Yeah? So creation implies a creator. There's such a beautiful creation around us. So it's very obvious that there has to be some supernatural intelligence behind it, creator behind it. Now, who's that creator? How is that, how did he make it? And all will come in day 4 and day 5. Yeah? But it's just the first proof that nothing has come automatically in this world. Tell me anything which has come automatically or is just created suddenly. Nothing. At least not in our experience. Yeah? Not in the child that, it's been a whole process and then he's come into existence. Okay? So this creation implies a creator. So what about the Big Bang theory that we learn in school? Remember the Big Bang theory? Then suddenly there was this, I'll tell you. Hi Simran, please come. Yeah, last time we came with your mom.
Yeah.
Come. We are at the second section of the class. Proof of existence for God. And last time we finished at our ultimate connection with God will make us happy. So the second question is, does God even exist? What is the proof of Him existing? That is C Lord. The first part is creation, implies creator. That is what C stands for. This N stands for, that's what when you do next. So here we have to understand that the modern scientists or the modern scientific theories, what do they speak about creation? There's so many theories that we learn in school. The most famous, especially in India, being the Big Bang theory. The Big Bang theory basically says that there was an infinitesimal point, size and temperature, at a particular time, at a particular space. It exploded because there was zero level temperature, and so it exploded, and it exploded into forming many planets, and the biggest one was the sun, and everything came across automatically. So my question here is, what takes more faith? To believe that there is some supernatural creator, like we were just revising that there's a telephone, there is this projector, there is this the bulb, even small things in our life were created by someone. Nothing was created automatically. What about this entire big Big Bang creation around us has come automatically out of a tiny point? Who created that point? Who created the time and the space at which that, or the temperature at which that point exploded? It takes more immense, huge leap of faith to believe that things came through a Big Bang than to believe that no, there is someone who is supernaturally intelligent, and through him or through that creator everything has come and is working still. So, creation of Big Bang. Have you ever heard anything being created with a Big Bang? I mean, there was a bang in your bathroom, and then there was a commode. You heard? Usually when there's a bang, there's either a bomb or there's some destruction. Is there any construction which happens with a bang? Can you imagine? We study this theory throughout school and we get our marks through that. So did everything start from a Big Bang or a big brain? According to Big Bang theory, everything began from a point with infinite temperature, infinite density, infinitesimal size, a point that is physically unrealizable, mathematically indescribable, beyond all conceptions of space and time. This is the actual Big Bang theory in scientific words. This is only some jugglery, words that we just all words, you'll have to check in the dictionary and see exactly what they mean. The Encyclopedia Britannica says it should be emphasized that no theory of origin of solar system has as yet won general acceptance. All involve highly improbable assumptions. He just assuming that there was a Big Bang and the creation had happened. But in fact, the first proof of existence of God is creation implies a creator. It's very obvious. Everything around us has been created by someone. So the first step in finding our solution is to recognize the master of this universal government. Nothing was created by a Big Bang. It was created by God. Just like a scenario in a classroom. The minute the teacher is out, what happens in the classroom? Talk. Chaos. Everything starts. The minute she enters in, there is some discipline. Why? Because she maintains that discipline in class. So she is the lawmaker in that class, and there are some laws. As soon as she enters, there are some rules which need to be followed. And you need a person. All these beautiful things that have been created, red roses and these beautiful flowers, the beautiful butterflies, the type of colors that they have, the blue sea. When you've gone for a vacation, sometimes you just wonder that creation is so beautiful. It has to be a creator. It cannot be just some Big Bang and these beautiful things were created. The second proof of God existing is a lawmaker. The rules for driving a car. You're 18 yet? Yeah. You got your license?
I'm making
We did. Yeah. There's so many rules to follow.
Yeah.
Who's made those rules? I'm going to beat up those people, but anyway, government has made these rules. To live in the country of India or to travel in a train even, there are some rules. Same way, there are some natural laws. The sun has its particular motion that it follows. The planets, they move in a perfect orbit. All planets are floating like swabs of cotton in a perfect traffic control mechanism. When humans drive it, accidents happen. But what about planets? They are being floating and they're moving in such a perfect orbit. They all have their own orbits. That's what we learnt in school. Have you ever heard that, oh, today Mars ko Venus se takra diya? No, that doesn't happen. They all have their circles or their orbits that they perfect. It's like a proper, if you see, it's a proper mechanism which has been moving since so long. Even a machine that is man-made, after it has an expiry date. It's got a particular date that it's going to finish. But these planets are going on and on for so long. If there are laws of physical optics, law of mechanics, law of gravitational force, law of the atomic energy, so many laws are there. How can these laws go on without any lawmaker? Imagine you are driving, you drive any way you want. What will happen? Accident. If there are laws, there has to be someone to reinforce that law. If the laws are not followed, like in abroad they have these CCTVs, these cameras, a month later they come and catch you. Almost a month later, and they say that, on this camera, this thing was recorded that you broke a signal in this day, and you're like lost and you have to dole out so much of dollars in fine. Because there's a law enforcer. Otherwise, just laws without an enforcer, without a maker, doesn't make sense. There are laws which everything is moving in a perfect mechanism. There is someone who has made these laws. So the first proof for existence of God is creator. Second is lawmaker. Third is order and design, with which this entire this creation is being made. And be more specific. You see the giraffe. Every animal is made perfect according to his habitat. Does that happen with a Big Bang? Or does that happen with natural selection? What is natural selection? It's the Darwin's theory. That again we learned in school. Yeah, because it really doesn't make sense. Now when I look back and I think, what is that, You know how a giraffe was created according to Darwin's theory? First there was a unicellular organism. And just quick recap of our science class in school. One amoeba, and then he realized that there are too many in the water. He grew to enormous size, and there were too many in the water, so then there were land animals. Survival of the fittest, they tried to modify themselves according to their space and needs and everything. So then there were short-necked animals. So then there were some animals who realized that there are too many short-necked animals. So the grasslands will be finished. This is his theory. I'm not saying out of myself. This is his theory. This is Darwin's theory. And in fact, I'll tell you that whole of Darwin's theory is maybe, perhaps, because of course he himself has not seen it. He's also sitting and speculating, maybe the short-necked animals, they felt as if, the grass will be too less. So we have to reach out the trees, the branches, the trees, right? So then there was a period of time where there were medium-necked animals, out of jiske fossils ab tak to mile nahi hai, okay? And then there was this giraffe. This is his explanation to how giraffe came about. But archaeological study says that according to the time period that Darwin has given, there are fossils of giraffes available and fossils of short-necked animals available. So there is no natural selection which is happening. All these 84 lakh species, the 84 lakh yoni that we say, were simultaneously created by a person with supernatural intelligence, with perfect order and design. If you see a giraffe, his heart weighs 11 kgs. He's 2 feet, that the neck is 2 feet long. There's a one-way check wall, the spongy tissues, everything apt to its habitat. Yeah. What to speak about this bird? This bird is so tiny. It weighs 3 grams. कुछ भी देखा 3 grams का? If you go to, if you put this some pinch of stones or something, they'll weigh 3 grams. This bird weighs 3 grams, and it's got a beak like a straw, so that it can suck that the nectar out of the flowers. That's his food, daily food. Correct? Now for him to stay that way, if he sits on the flower will break. So he has to fly. How does he fly? 75 times he flaps his wings per second. Can you imagine? This kind of order and design in every species. Now this is just 2 examples that I've given you. I could give you n number of examples to see how a particular animal is surviving in their habitat so beautifully without any extra endeavor. And such beautiful creation through Big Bang, through natural selection. In fact, Steve Jobs, he passed away last year, or this year? Can't recollect. It was last year, December last year. He is the mastermind behind Apple. He says, if I pull in all the engineers that I have in Mac today, pull in, like if I get together all the engineers that I have in Mac today, we, all of us together, cannot understand or even fathom 1 inch of the intelligence which has gone behind creating DNA. What is DNA? Each one of us has unique DNA that gives us our identity. Thumbprints and DNA, it's our genes. Genital engineering, it's such a complex science. It takes a huge leap of faith to believe that it's come through Big Bang or this or that. Can you imagine the amount of intelligence God has? It's amazing. Order and design. Again, camel. The type of feet that he has is just perfect for sand. He's got transparent eyelids. I didn't know before I did this course. He's got transparent eyelids. So even if there's a sandstorm, which is very natural in deserts, you can still see and move on. Got transparent eyelids. Ugly, the truth. And it can carry food and water for 8 days non-stop. Can drink 130 liters of water at a time. Huge. Can store everything in its hump. Long legs. It's just beautiful order and design. Just you can imagine, nothing has come without a creator, and the amount of intelligence that this creator has, and the perfect law and mechanism that is working. These are just repeatedly proofs after proofs that it's such a power behind all of this. And the last proof that God exists is demands and urges. There are some natural urges that each and every species feels. There's water, there is food, hunger, and all of these urges that we have naturally are being provided by nature. We are hungry, so there is food available. We are thirsty, so already before our birth, water is available. Same way, we have a natural urge of worship also. Even if you go to some jungle, Adivasis, where there are uneducated, illiterate, absolutely pichda hua tribals living, whenever there's some lightning on everything, immediately they bow down, and even they understand that there is some superior force, because it's a very natural urge to worship. So see, Lord makes it complete proof that God does exist. So how do I define God now? Okay, fine, God exists. Now if one person comes up and says that, okay, I am God, how do I know that, how do I not get cheated? Because there's a whole market. How we have Sabji Mandi, we have share market, like that we have market for gods also. Each and every person may say that, I am God and this is God and you are also God. What is the definition of God? Right? Some say God is light, some say God is nature. And there was another philosopher, Nietzsche. He existed around the 18th century. He used to say God is dead. He made everything, perfectly, machine on kar diya, and then he's finished. That was his definition of God. Some will say you are God, you have the potency to become God. Everyone has their own traditional beliefs of God. What is the proper definition of God? There is one. I've just kind of reshuffled this spec and made it to spice. So we'll follow this spice. What's the definition of God? How do I not get cheated? How do I define Kircha? This SPICE, these 5 things are there. In a universal, it's a definition. Now we're taking all the religions of the world, we're taking all the definitions of the world and putting them together into this spice. What is spice? Spice means supreme source. He's the source. That if he is God, if you are God, Simran, you have to be the source of everything. Means everything should be coming from you. Everything should be starting from you. Yeah. Supreme proprietor. Everything belongs to God. Sabka Malik Ek. It's the definition. Supremely independent. That means God's happiness and activities are not dependent on anyone. Now my happiness is dependent on whether my parents are happy, my husband is happy, my friends are happy. When they are sad, I am sad. So I am dependent. But the Lord, if there is God, He has to be supremely independent. Supreme controller, because He belongs everything to Him. A lot of times, things may belong to us, but they may not be in our control. For example, laptops. ऐसे बंद हो जाते हैं कभी-कभी. They don't work. Right? Sometimes cars, they just break down. You don't know what's wrong. You have to be control of everything, controller of everything. And finally, E stands for supreme enjoyer. But He is also enjoying everything. Supreme source, supreme proprietor, supremely independent, supreme controller, and supreme enjoyer. This is the definition of God. And I will quickly elaborate on everything. Supreme source. If you see, there is a family photograph here. बच्चा है, बच्चे के पास पापा है, उसके पापा. If you go back, there has to be one person from whom everything began. Right? Is that fair? What is this question? Who came first, the chicken or the egg? Baap re. I've not met a single person who's been able to answer this question. Let me see if you can answer it. Who came first, chicken or the egg? Say chicken कैसे आएगा? जैसे egg वो कहाँ से आया? Who came first? Both. God created both. The chicken with the egg. Who came first? God came first. Because there's no question about who came first. God can create everything. If He is the source of everything, He is the source of the egg and He is the source of the chicken also. Simultaneously producing or creating both. Is that possible? Of course that's possible. Because He is the supreme source. Everything should come from Him. Yeah? Proprietor. This is my favorite story. What is the story? Remember the story? Heard it? No? Good. Time for her to get married here. So there was this beggar who went into this house. He knocked. He was hoping आज तो भूखा सारा दिन कुछ मिला नहीं. And this daughter-in-law, she opens the door, the bahu of the house, she opens the door and she looks at the beggar and she's already irritated and she says, get out, and she closes the door. So the beggar is rejected, one more. He just comes out, and when he was walking down the staircase, that time the mother-in-law of the house, she enters and she saw what happened. So she told the beggar, क्या हुआ? So the beggar told her, your bahu, your daughter-in-law, she told me to get out. She closed the door, so I'm going. So the mother-in-law said, अच्छा ऐसे बोला उसने, you come with me. So the beggar was very happy that maybe the mother-in-law is more dayavan. Okay, so she again clicked the doorbell and the daughter-in-law opened, and then she saw the beggar again with the mother-in-law. So she kept quiet, she didn't say anything. So mother-in-law entered the house She looked behind. She didn't ask the beggar to enter. The beggar still hadn't answered. The beggar was wondering, मुझे कुछ मिलेगा अभी. She looks at the beggar and she says, "Get out." And she closes the door. The beggar was highly confused. You see, that's exactly what the bahu did. Why did the saas also do the same thing? So he knocked at the door again and he said, kindly explain what is happening. So the mother-in-law said, "Who is she to tell you get out? The house belongs to me." Yeah? Can you imagine? Even the mother-in-law and mother-in-law must have done the same thing to her. So who is the proprietor finally? Mother-in-law or her mother-in-law? Or her mother-in-law? Yeah? Basically a dharmshala. That's what Birbal told Akbar. That we think that things belong to us. Can we carry it? Or did we carry it when we had our luggage when we came out of our mother's womb? Like a trolley walking behind, coming out of the womb. We didn't come with anything. We can't go with anything. Who is the proprietor? God is the eternal proprietor of everything that is there in this creation. He is the source. He is the owner. He owns everything, and simply everything is with us as our quota, as caretakers for some time, and then we move on. Inevitably, whether we like it or not, it moves to someone else. But Lord is not like that. He is the supreme proprietor. And then, supremely independent, I told you that He is independent, independently enjoying, independently happy. He doesn't depend on anyone else. As an enjoyer, like if there is, I can give you an analogy of a hotel. In a hotel, there's an owner, and then there are employees. All the employees are depending on the hotel owner, on his ideas, or new culinary, or the new chefs, or the whatever new ideas that he takes out. All these people, they are depending on the hotel owner for their salaries, for their enjoyment. Boss का mood अच्छा है तो मिलेगा. So same way, there is a supreme enjoyer called God, on whom and our enjoyment depends on Him. He takes away something, can't enjoy anymore. He gives something, we joy. So He is the supreme enjoyer. All of us are dependent on Him. Just like all the employees of the hotel are dependent on the hotel owner. Right? And last is controller. One day, Birbal kind of sensed that Akbar is becoming very proud. So he tried to, it's better to be humble all the time, otherwise you simply fall flat on your face. And so Birbal did not want Akbar to go through that tough ordeal. So one day he started glorifying Akbar in the court, saying that, "Arey, Jahanpana, aap to great ho. You are wonderful, you are this, you are that, my God, you're so powerful, and you're so famous all throughout the world, this, that." He said, "You are so great," at one point of time, that you are even greater than God. It was too much for Akbar to take. He said, "Birbal abhi zyada ho raha hai." Just relax. Can you explain? How can you say that? Birbal said, No, I can explain. You are greater than God. You can do something that even God cannot do. Birbal said, "Really? I'm curious to know what that is." So Birbal said, "It's very simple, Akbar." Maharaj, he said, God, at least, you can throw someone out of your kingdom. God can't even do that. You realize what that means? He told Akbar that you can throw someone out of your kingdom. God can't even do that. Because wherever He throws anyone, that also is His kingdom. He's the supreme controller. He controls everything. Right? Wherever He throws anyone, that will be His kingdom. So basically what He was trying to tell Akbar is that you are becoming proud, thinking that you are the owner and controller of this world, but basically you are also a puppet in the hands of God. And your jurisdiction ends. Everything is under the control of God. Yeah? If you see, even our entire system that is there in our body, in science, if you just Google it, you will find there are some voluntary actions in our body which, there's so much activity going on in our body, we don't realize. The blood, is going up and down, and there's so much of actively digestion and the eyes, and continuously the muscles, they're working as I'm talking, as you're thinking, your mind is active. So this mind, this body, this entire physical body that we have has two types of functions. In all, they put into two broad categories, voluntary and involuntary. Yeah? There are 80% of things which are involuntary, means which is not in our control. Something like eating, something like breathing, something like, if I voluntarily blink or wink my eyes, or if I do something to my hair, these, move my hands, move my feet, these are voluntary activities. There's something called involuntary activities, like digestion, the heartbeat, the movement of the blood. Is this under our control? Nothing. 80% of the movements in our body is not even in our control. Then how is it working? How is this heart beating for so long without any battery power also? Because the Lord is the supreme controller. He even controls the smallest mechanisms in our body. It's that much. What is the definition of God? He is supreme source, supreme proprietor, supremely independent, supreme proprietor, supreme controller, supreme enjoyer. So if anyone comes and says कि भाई I am to God, what will you say? Are you the supreme source? सब कुछ आपसे आया है, proprietor हो, कितना property है, हाँ, independent हो, controller हो, enjoyer हो, that zeroes down everything. This is what we do in class. First is that, in Bhagavad Gita cause means that shattering all the, loose faiths, the loose ends that we have here and there. Confirmedly that God exists. Yes, there is proof. Creation implies a creator. Lawmaker means there is, laws are there, that means there's a lawmaker. And then what else? There's order and design, which shows that there is a supernatural intelligence behind. There's so much, the demands and urges, it's very natural to worship. All these things are proofs that God exists. Not only exists, but there's a clear-cut definition, spice, that's a proper definition of God, universal definition. Anywhere you go, you will find this definition applicable. Right? After proving, how do we see God? Chalo, proof to theek hai. What if someone wants to see God? Is it possible? No? How do we know that air exists, even though we can't see air? अभी तो AC है तो लग रहा है air है. Some experience. So some cause, some effect. Like I know there's electricity because this AC is working, the light is on. The minute it goes off, I know electricity is gone. There's no proper tangible proof or that I can see. ठीक है, wires में से electricity जा रही है. There's some cause and effect. Through cause and effect, I'll be able to see God. And also, if I want to see Him face to face, it's possible by some extraordinary service. God is such a big dignitary that He is not our servant and I say कि अभी मुझे देखना है कि वो आ जाएंगे. There has to be some extraordinary service to be done. Like even if you want to see the Prime Minister of India, you think you'll get an appointment? No. But if you've done some extraordinary service in the nation, what happens? The Prime Minister himself comes to award you something. The special awards that are there, Paramveer Chakra or something, it's extraordinary activities. But it's possible to see God, it's not impossible. But there's some process to be followed. Last thing, how do I get knowledge about God? Okay, proof hai, everything is there. If I have to get that experience of God, how do I get it? How do I get that knowledge about God? Before starting that part, before getting the actual knowledge of God, there are usually, generally in our material world, there are 3 ways that we get knowledge. Number 1 is experimental knowledge. Or seeing is believing. देखा है मैंने. That's what in court cases, that's what they do. They have an eyewitness. It's someone who's seen that activity happening. Someone who's seen God. That's how we gain knowledge about God. Only if we see Him. And that's very difficult because we have 4 defects in our body. You know what are these 4 defects? We have imperfect senses. That means this eyes, this ears, this nose, this tongue and skin that we have is not perfect. For someone to conduct an experiment or someone to see God, he needs to have perfect vision or perfect senses to see someone who is perfect. If I am imperfect, can I see the perfect? Number 1 defect in me is that, in all of us, is that imperfect senses. And there's a tendency to be illusion. I'll be doing that later. All of us have a tendency to make mistakes. Are we perfect? And to cover that mistakes, all of us have a tendency to cheat. Cheating propensity. So the first defect, imperfect senses. Our eyes are blind outside the range of 400 to 700 millimicron. It's too tiny, we need a microscope or a magnifying glass. It's too huge, too far away, we need telescopes or binoculars, additional help, because these eyes are defective. How can we see God? Our ears are deaf outside range of 20 Hz to 20 kilohertz. You seen a dog whistle anytime? You've used it? You know, can we hear a dog whistle? Only dogs can hear because it's below the range of 20 Hz. Our ears cannot catch that decibel. It's defective. It's not perfect. If we taste orange after sugar, even if the orange is sweet, it will taste sour. If we taste that same orange after lemon, even if it is khatta, it will taste sweet. Defective. Tongue is defective. Water touched with warm hand appears cool, touched with cold hand appears warm. With these imperfect senses, we want to see God with experimental knowledge. So experimental knowledge to gaya. We have a tendency to be illusion also. Sometimes we see something, he says, when we see someone, we feel like I usko dekha, but actually that person was someone else. What happens? Yeah? But for that split second, you felt that you really saw that person. So we have a tendency to be illusioned also. Like you see this picture? Can you imagine? It looks like 2 old people facing each other, but actually there are 2 people sitting here. One person playing guitar. You make up, Sonia? Someone coming out with like slightly ears. So there's a tendency to be illusion. Even this picture. It's like an old woman or a young girl looking that side. Like that, there are so many. Like this image is not moving. If you try to concentrate on a point, it moves. So all of this, even this particular thing is there. If you focus on the dot in the center and you move your head backwards and forward, focus on the dot in the center. And if you move your head, you feel as if those things are moving. Yeah. You see this? Looks like a bridge, but it's actually a fleet of ship. Commit mistakes is the third defect. First defect is imperfect senses. Second defect is there needs to be illusion. Third defect is you are perfect. You make mistakes. The brain was thought of as an organ just to cool the blood. Garam dimag. Actually, they thought that it was just an organ to cool the blood. But brain is such an important thing in the body. You've seen people who are brain dead? Can't do anything. Such an important organ. And such even Hubble constant, all these are mistakes. Plato, he thought the earth was, in 15th century, he thought the earth was flat. But it's actually gold. Okay? And major cheating propensity. The pill down mind fraud. Now Darwin theory is just a theory. He couldn't prove anything. But later on the scientists, they actually went to this place called Piltdown. And they actually filed the jaws to make them look like the skulls which refer to the Darwin's theory. And this fraud was caught years later. So someone made a theory which was not right. There were people who were earning on that theory. When they realized that this theory is not correct, they tried to cheat just to cover up. So everyone has this. I'm not saying that only them, but everyone has this propensity to cheat. Correct? So experimental knowledge is very dangerous. to depend. If I think I am going to get to know God through these IICC, that is, imperfect senses, I get illusion, I cheat sometimes, I make so many mistakes. With this, I'll be able to understand God. Very difficult. This is what our educational background is basically. They're trying to teach us everything through experimental knowledge. That's why we have imperfect knowledge. And our knowledge is narrow and limited. The second way is through theories, anuman, guess karte, trial and error. Like how Darwin's theory did. Maybe, perhaps, his entire theory is filled with these words. Just speculation. Like the 6 blind men who were blind since birth, they had never seen an elephant in their lives. So when they caught this, somehow one day they came across this animal and they were thinking, अच्छा ये elephant है, तो बिल्कुल rope की तरह है. Why? Because he was holding the tail of the elephant. Someone caught the feet, thinking like the wall, someone was catching the whole body. He said it's like a fan because he was holding the ears. So everyone had a different definition of an elephant. Finally, someone who had vision had to hold them together. They were harassing the elephant, and he made him see the entire, made them feel, made them touch the entire elephant. This is the nose, this is the. So what happens finally is that, again the record of the rocks, is just a speculation. Human beings and monkeys simultaneously existed millions of years ago, and there are fossils available for that too. So Darwin's theory is just speculation. Finally, what is the best way to get knowledge? What is Shabda Praman? Experimental knowledge is one. Number 2, we can either guess or make theories about it. Number 3 is that we accept some authority. Every science has their textbook. Like biology has their textbook. Who's written that textbook? Some expert on biology. Yeah. Same way, there are some expert books on God available in Crossword. They are called scriptures, like the Bible, like the Quran, like the Bhagavad Gita. These scriptures are a proof that God exists. They give us knowledge about God. They are the authority on God. They are like the textbooks that we get to learn about God. Now, how do I know that scriptures are written by someone? And that's what famously everyone believes, that Vedas wrote the scriptures. The history about scriptures we'll be doing in day 5 and day 6. But basically, these scriptures, if you open up and if you see, how do you know they are right? And suppose if you bought a washing machine home, how do you know how to work it? Yeah. With every manufacturing company, when they sell you an electronic item, they give you a written manual along with it. So when God created this creation, He sent forth something called scriptures through His devotees. In that scripture, what is it written? How to live in this material world. How to find happiness. That was our first original question, day 1. How to connect with Him, how to get knowledge about Him. That is all that is there in the scriptures. Because that's a manual. How to work a modern washing machine you get from a manual. So these scriptures are right because they work like a manual. Now suppose if the manufacturer was confused, he gave you 4 or 5 manuals by mistake. How do you know which manual is right for your washing machine? You won't know.
You see the computer order which is there.
Yeah, maybe you check some things which are identical. Maybe you try, this manual के हिसाब से कैसे चलता है. जो चलता है वो actual manual है. The Bible works for me, Quran works for me. The things that are written there, if I try that out, and the experience that I should get is also written there, if I am getting the same experience, that means that manual is for me. Right? And so many saints in the past have worked with these manuals, have found solace, have found happiness, have found God through these scriptures. Have found the experience, the true experience of God through these scriptures. So they are proper manuals. And one thing you find very extraordinary in these manuals is that every statement in these manuals, in these scriptures, are like axiomatic truth. Do you know what's an axiom? A-X-I-O-M. We learned it in geometry. Axiom is a statement which cannot be proved practically. You have to try it for yourself. For example, I'll give you one axiom in geometry. Definition of a point. How do you define a point? A point is a circle with radius 0. Is there anything called radius 0? If I try to take my, the compass that we had, if I try to draw a radius 0, what will I get? Only a point. Unless I don't try to draw it, how will I understand what's a point? Do you get it? What's an axiom? Means you have to try it for yourself. So Vedas requires no proof. If you practice, it works in reality. In fact, the Vedas are so strong that it challenges anyone. If any part of the Veda is proved wrong, incomplete or contradictory, then one can reject the entire body of Vedic knowledge. Means you can reject all the Upanishads, the Mahabharata, Ramayana, everything. All the Puranas. If you prove that any one statement, there are so many statements, any one statement is wrong, that's the challenge Vedas give you. Because they're full of axiomatic truths. Vedic knowledge never changes. It has stood the test of time. Modern science confirms Vedic truths. How is that? If you see theories that are there in science from the 15th century, that was actually when the Catholic Church, the Roman Church started patronizing scientists. That's when they actually started, Einstein and all of them, they were really patronized by the church. That's when science actually started growing. But if you see, they were using their defective senses. Like in 15th century, Plato said Earth is flat. But Robert Copernicus came up and said that no. And he was a sailor. He was basically a sailor and a scientist too. What did he prove? He started from a point and he landed up back to that same point of the globe. So he said it has to be round. It cannot be flat. So what is happening? The facts or the science that we learned keeps changing from time to time. But Vedic statements are true millions of years back. They are true even today. Like one axiom that is there. Modern science confirms that cow dung is pure. This is a Vedic statement. How can a dung of an animal be pure? Generally when we sit for a puja, even if I touch my finger to my mouth or something, I'm supposed to go out and wash my hand and come because it's not clean. The saliva has so much germs in it. How can someone's dung be pure? How can it be used for pujas? In fact, Krishna, when we have Abhishek in Janmashtami, Krishna is bathed with urine, cow urine and cow dung. If you see traditional homes in the villages, they smear cow dung on their walls. Because scientifically, cow dung is proved to have antiseptic properties. It's a repellent to mosquitoes and flies and so many other insects. It's proved. So is the Vedic statement wrong when it says that cow dung is pure? It's an axiomatic truth. When you try it, you will see the result. Same way Bhugol. As I told you, Robert Copernicus took so long to prove. Till that time, everyone was believing that the earth is flat. But what is geography called in Sanskrit? Bhugol Shastra. Shastra means science and Bhugol is, the Bhu means the earth, Gol means. Vedas have always said that the earth is round. Have they changed their statements? No. Even today the earth is round. It's always round. And the Vedas always said that plants have life. But it was much later, it was Bose. I forgot his name. There was this Indian scientist, Bose, who actually proved that plants have life. Till that time they didn't believe that plants have life. They thought that it was called it. It put in a category of non-living things. But he actually took a tree and he put it into nitric acid. severe acid, and the plants actually shook with pain. And that's how he proved his theory that plants do have life, they have feelings, they feel pain. Pain and feeling is a symptom of life. That's how he proved. But the Vedic theory always is that plants always have life. Embryology. The second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam gives amazing facts about what the child goes through in the womb of the mother. Even today, people don't have knowledge of that. Embryology study is only growing now. The scientific theories about atoms and protons, all this thing is there in the Vedas. Modern man is turning to yoga, meditation, Vastu Shastra, astronomy, astrology, metallurgy, etc. from scriptures. Now actually there's a particular combination which is occurred, you can make gold. It's there in the Vedas. People are searching and they're trying it out, all the permutation and combination. Imagine if you can make gold. And then astonishing prediction of scriptures. That's the third proof that Vedas are accurate. The first proof, I'll write, the acronym is MAP, M-A-P. First is that it's a manual. The second is that the statements are axiomatic truths. And P is predictions. Now apparently Vedas are technically proved that they were written 5,000 years ago by Vedas. Yeah? But then so many historical figures of people who came after it was written. So it was like a prediction. Prediction about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was there in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was there in the textbooks of, that he was a great saint in Bengal. He's already predicted. Buddha, who appeared 2,500 years back, and the Vedas were written 5,000 years back. Exactly the name of Buddha, the name of his parents, his birthplace, everything, his activities, everything was predicted much before in the Vedas. Yeah? About Chanakya Pandit, again, he was predicted. King Ashoka, he's very recent. King Ashoka is a very recent person. Jesus Christ is being predicted in Bhavishya Puran. Same way Prophet Muhammad is predicted in Bhavishya Puran. All these people. So these predictions also become a proof of the validity of scriptures, of how they are right. And we can follow them to get knowledge about God. In fact, that's the best way. Because so many defects, the 4 defects that we have, make us very imperfect to approach God. Forget about getting knowledge about Him. Anuman Pranam is just too tedious theory. And Shabda Praman, approaching a right authority. That is the scriptures which are coming straight from God. And they are accurate because they are manual, axiomatic truth, and accurate predictions make. Yeah, inside it's the prasadam thing. Yeah, prasadam. It's open. You just click it, it's open. Quick recap. So does God exist? People believe in God because of some desires that they have, because of fear of the unknown, some society pressure, because traditionally we brought up ki bhai Bhagwan pe bharosa karo. So that's how we believe in God. But actually, there are reasons that people don't believe in God because of some reversals in their life, or they've not seen God, or there is no scientific proof of God. Prasadam is this. No problem. Why do people not believe in God? Because of some reversals or some. So why do people not believe in God? Because of some reversals or some there's no proof, they've not seen God. And number 1 was no proof, scientific proof. Yeah? So seeing God is, I think Simran came later. Seeing God is There are so many things that we've not seen in this world, like air, ether. They're still existing. There's some experience that we have that we can believe. Yeah? And sufferings, why sufferings are there and what connection is got with God will be in day 5. And what connection is got with God will be day 5. Why people are suffering if God exists. Yeah? That will be in day 5. And proof of God is definitely there. It is see Lord. C stands for creation, implies a creator. Lawmaker implies, laws implies lawmaker. There are natural laws, there are so many types of laws. OR stands for order and design. There's so much order and design which is perfectly made this creation, and that last is demands and urges. It's very natural. And number 3, question number 3 that we had, is there a clear-cut definition for God? That is spice. Supreme source, everything should come from Him. Supreme proprietor, not only coming from Him but it belongs to Him. Supremely independent, He doesn't depend on anyone. Supreme controller, He controls everything. Supreme enjoyer, His enjoyment doesn't depend on anyone else. To get perfect knowledge is through 3 ways. Either experimental knowledge, or we try some theories or some guesswork or trial and error, or we accept some authority. We cannot follow Pratyaksh Praman or experimental knowledge because we have 4 defects. Our senses are defective. Even dogs have better senses than us. They can hear and they can smell so well. Even vultures, in fact, when vultures fly so high in the sky, they can see even the tiniest of prey. We cannot see. So, imperfect senses. And the next is illusion. We have a tendency to be illusion. And then third one is, can you remember? Tendency to commit mistakes. And the last one is cheating propensity. We make those mistakes and to cover them up, we cheat. In fact, lying becomes like a very natural thing. That these are the defects that we have, and that's why it makes us not perfect enough to find out about God, to get knowledge about God. And the next one is, I have written it here, Pratyaksh Praman, Anuman Praman. Just like the 6 blind men, they were trying to figure out what is the elephant all about. But unless a person who has knowledge, who has vision, could not help them, even they were not able to figure out. Same like the Darwin's theory, he was trying to find out about something that he has not seen himself. No one was there at that time to really say that Darwin's theory was right. But then everything was perhaps maybe just a speculation. And the last is Shabda Praman, authority of Vedas or Bible or Quran. They are the textbooks for knowledge about God. How do we know? Through map. They act like manuals. If they work for us, they are right. There are axiomatic truths. You have to try it for yourself and then you see the experience. And the last one is P, that is astonishing predictions. Exact location of the people and the name of their parents, and random prediction is fine, but so accurate, so many years back, technically as they say it was written so many years back. So these predictions also show us that Vedas are definitely accurate in giving knowledge about God. So that was a recap. So next Friday when we meet, what we'll do is we'll find out about our identity. Who am I? In the first class we did search for happiness. That everyone is looking for happiness. Where is it? We can't find it. Happiness is in connection with God. That was the conclusion of last class. If that is conclusion, that was the conclusion, that does God exist is the next question. And how do I get knowledge about God if I have to connect with Him? So here I have a facility to know about God. I want to know about myself. Right? My identity in connection